God is in everything I see. God is in everything I see. Because God is in my mind. Because God is in my mind. God is in everything I see. Because God is in my mind. Now look in your mind and tell yourself that God is in that, something that's not in your immediate vicinity, and you see it. And tell yourself, God is in that. Because God is in my mind. Do another one. God is in that. Because God is in my mind. Now look around you and see something right around you and tell yourself the same thing as your highlights on it. God is in that. Because God is in my mind. Now look at another thing. God is in that. Because God is in my mind. Now do it either with your eyes open or closed. Picture something far away that you can't see, but you can see it in your mind, or see something close by that you can see with your mind, and do a couple more. God is in that. Because God is in my mind. God is in that. Because God is in my mind. God is in everything I see. Because God is in my mind. God is in everything I see. Because God is in my mind. Well, thank you all so much for joining me today and studying the Course in Miracles. We're ready for Lesson 30 for Friday, January the 30th of 2026. And it's the Tuesday preceding that Friday that I'm actually doing this recording. So that way I get plenty of time to get it uploaded in time for you. Okay, let's see. Let's read our lesson and see what it actually says. God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. The idea for today is the springboard for vision. The springboard for vision. Remember what a springboard, like a diving board, has some spring in it. You can jump on it, and then the power of your jump will throw you out into the water. Well, this idea today is we're going to throw you into the visionary state. God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. The idea for today is the springboard for vision. From this idea will the world open up before you, and you will look upon it and see in it what you have never seen before. Nor will what you saw before be even faintly visible to you. Today we're trying to use a new kind of projection. We're not attempting to get rid of what we do not like by seeing it outside. Instead, we're trying to see in the world what is in our minds and what we want to recognize is there. Thus, we're trying to join with what we see rather than keeping it apart from us. Let's read that again. We are trying to see in the world what is in our minds. God. We are trying to see in the world what is in our minds and what we want to recognize is there. Thus, we're trying to join with what we see rather than keeping it apart from us. That is the fundamental difference between vision and the way you see. The fundamental difference between vision and the way you see is that we haven't been recognizing that God is in our mind, and therefore He's in everything. Oh, and yesterday I said omniscience, which is all-knowing. I meant to say omnipresent. So this is the idea that God is omnipresent, but He's also omniscient. But God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. Thus, we're trying to join with what we see rather than keeping it apart from us. This is the fundamental difference between vision and the way you see now, apart from vision. Today's idea should be applied as often as possible throughout the day. Whenever you have a moment or so, repeat it to yourself slowly, looking about you and trying to realize that the idea applies to everything you do see now or could see now if it were within the range of your sight. So today's idea is we're just supposed to do it throughout the day. Either our inner world, tell ourselves God is in everything I see because God is in my mind as we look around us, or we can close our eyes and look in our inner world and see what we want to see there and remind ourselves God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. Real vision is not limited to concepts such as near and far. To help you begin to get used to this idea, try to think of things beyond your present range as well as those you can actually see as you apply today's idea. And of course, we've already talked about that. Real vision is not only unlimited by space and distance, but it does not depend on the body's eyes at all. The mind is its only source. To aid in helping you to become more accustomed to this idea as well, devote several practice periods to applying today's idea with your eyes closed, using whatever subjects come to mind, and looking within rather than without. Today's idea applies equally to both. Okay, so we're going to do what we did when we were opening with our song. We close our eyes a few times and say, God is in everything I see in my mind because God is in my mind. And then you might even try to visualize something, some person that you love or care for that's not right there close, or anything. It could even be a doorknob on a shop building or something. Whatever you choose you want to see. God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. And then you might even look around and do it a little bit. God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. God is in that cedar tree behind me because God is in my mind. Okay, you get the idea. So do that throughout the day. If you want to try to aim for a certain amount of time, try for every hour, I would recommend. But he doesn't really tell you, just that when you think about it, as often as you can. Maybe every 15 or 20 minutes you ought to be doing it. Okay, I'll let you get to make the decision how often, but throughout the day. Okay, let's go take a look in chapter 4 of our text, and we're reading from the Foundation for Inner Peace version of A Course in Miracles. And we're ready for chapter 4, Roman numeral 1. Yesterday was introduction. Today is Roman numeral 1, which I probably ought to correct that. I wrote Roman numeral 2 on my paper. Let's correct that before I go any further, or I'm going to be confused. Paragraph 1 through 8 today is about half of this section. So let's take a look at what it says. Right teaching and right learning. A good teacher clarifies his own ideas and strengthens them by teaching them. A good teacher clarifies his own ideas and strengthens them by teaching them. Teacher and pupil are alike in the learning process. They are in the same order of learning, and unless they share their lessons, conviction will be lacking. A good teacher must believe in the ideas he teaches, but he must meet another condition. He must believe in the students to whom he offers the ideas. Many stand guard over their ideas because they want to protect their thought system as they are. They want to protect their thought systems as they are, and learning means change. Change is always fearful to the separated, and listen to the reason why change is always fearful to the separated, because they cannot conceive of it as a move towards healing the separation. They always perceive it as a move toward further separation, because the separation was their first experience of change. Whoa. You believe that if you allow no change to enter into your ego, you will find peace. This profound confusion is possible only if you maintain that the same thought system can stand on two foundations. Nothing can reach spirit from the ego, and nothing can reach the ego from spirit. Spirit can neither strengthen the ego nor reduce the conflict within it. The ego is a contradiction. Yourself and God's self are in opposition. They are opposed in source, in direction, and in outcome. They are fundamentally irreconcilable because spirit cannot perceive and the ego cannot know. They are therefore not in communication and can never be in communication. Nevertheless, the ego can learn even though its maker can be misguided. He cannot, however, make the totally lifeless out of the life given. Paragraph 3. Spirit need not be taught, but the ego must learn. Okay. Spirit need not be taught, but the ego must be. Learning is ultimately perceived as frightening because it leads to the relinquishment, not the destruction, of the ego to the light of spirit. This is the change the ego must fear, because it does not share my charity, says Jesus, doesn't share his love. My lesson was like yours, and because I learned it, I can teach it. I will never attack your ego, but I am trying to teach you how its thought system arose. When I remind you of your true creation, your ego cannot but respond with fear. Paragraph 4. Teaching and learning are your greatest strengths now, because they enable you to change your mind and help others to change theirs. Wow, teaching and learning are our greatest strengths now, because they enable you to change your mind and help others to change theirs. Refusing to change your mind and help others to change, refusing to change your mind will not prove that the separation has not occurred. The dreamer who doubts the reality of his dream while he is still dreaming is not really healing his split mind. Let's read that again. The dreamer who doubts the reality of his dream while he is still dreaming is not really healing his split mind. You dream of a separated ego and believe in a world that rests upon it. This is very real to you. You cannot undo it by not changing your mind about it. This is very real to you. You cannot undo it by not changing your mind about it. If you are willing to renounce the role of guardian of your thought system and open it to me, says Jesus or Yeshua, I will correct it very gently and lead you back to God. Let's read that again. You cannot undo, talking about your ego, you cannot undo it by not changing your mind about it. If you're willing to renounce the role of guardian of your thought system and open it to me, I will correct it very gently and lead you back to God. Paragraph 5. Every good teacher hopes to give his students so much of his own learning that they will one day no longer need him. Every good teacher hopes to give his students so much of his own learning that they will one day no longer need him. This is the one true goal of the teacher. It is impossible to convince the ego of this because it goes against all of its own laws. But remember that laws are set up to protect the continuity of the system in which the lawmaker believes. It is natural for the ego to try to protect itself once you have made it, but it is not natural for you to want to obey its laws unless you believe them. The ego cannot make this choice because of the nature of its origin. You can, because of the nature of yours. Paragraph 6. Egos can clash in any situation, but spirit cannot clash at all. Spirit's always in complete harmony with itself. Of course, the ego's an all alone, and every choice it makes is in a clashing with spirit, and oftentimes with its own logic. Ego can clash in any situation, but spirit cannot clash at all. If you perceive a teacher as merely a larger ego, you will be afraid because to enlarge an ego would be to increase anxiety about separation. I will teach you and live with you if you will think with me, but my goal will always be to absolve you finally from the need for a teacher. This is the opposite of the ego-oriented teacher's goal. He is concerned with the effect of his ego on other egos and therefore interprets their interaction as a means of ego preservation. I would not be able to devote myself to teaching if I believed this, and you will not be a devoted teacher as long as you believe it. I am constantly being perceived as a teacher, either to be exalted or rejected. But I do not accept either perception for myself. Can we do that too? When people try to exalt you or humble you, can we just say, well, hey, let's read it again. I would not be able to devote myself to teaching if I believed this. And you will not be devoted teachers as long as you believe it. He is concerned with the effect of his ego on other egos and therefore interprets their interaction as a means of ego preservation. And then Yeshua says, I would not be able to devote myself to teaching if I believed this, and you will not be a devoted teacher as long as you believe it. I am constantly being perceived as a teacher, either to be exalted or rejected, but I do not accept either perception for myself. 7. Your worth is not established by teaching or learning. Your worth is established by God. As long as you dispute this, everything you do will be fearful, particularly any situation that lends itself to the belief in superiority or inferiority. Teachers must be patient and repeat their lessons until they are learned. I am willing to do this because I have no right to set your learning limits for you. Now, we could really learn something there. Let's not be setting the learning limits of our brothers and sisters. Let's be patient, know that God's working with them, and they'll reach the level that they're to reach without us criticizing them or doubting them. I have no right to set your learning limits for you. Again, nothing you do or think or wish or make is necessary to establish your worth. This point is not debatable, except in delusions. Your ego is never at stake because God did not make it. Your spirit is never at stake because He did make it. Any confusion on this point is delusional, and no form of devotion is possible as long as this delusion lasts. And then the last paragraph we'll read today is 8. The ego tries to exploit all situations into forms of praise for itself in order to overcome its doubts. It will remain doubtful as long as you believe in its existence. You who made it cannot trust it because in your right mind you realize it is not real. The only sane solution is not to try to change reality, which is indeed a fearful attempt, but to accept it as it is. You are part of reality which stands unchanged beyond the reach of your ego, but within easy reach of spirit. When you are afraid, be still and know that God is real, and you are His beloved Son in whom He is well pleased. Do not let your ego dispute this, because the ego cannot know what is as far beyond its reach as you are. Wow, let's read that last little bit again. The ego, when you are afraid, be still and know that God is real, and you are His beloved Son in whom He is well pleased. Do not let your ego dispute this, because the ego cannot know what is as far beyond its reach as you are. Okay, let's see what's going on around the world today. And let's be sure to remember to do our lesson every time we think about it today. Tell yourself, God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. And you can look around for a moment and see something and say, well, God's in that little icicle hanging off that leaf because God is in my mind. Or whatever you see. Or close your eyes and visualize something you see. Okay, today is... I told you Ramadan began. I went and looked it up. It doesn't begin until February the 17th. So that was misinformation that I found. I don't know why it came up. It said it was the new moon, which the new moon I found is actually was January the 18th was the new moon. So it's not currently. Day of Nonviolence, which is the anniversary of when Mahatma Gandhi was killed in 1948. So it's the Day of Nonviolence. Activity Professionals Day, Big Wig Day. It's a fundraiser for cancer research. Croissant Day, Draw a Dinosaur Day, Escape Day. Basically just a day to escape into whatever you like to relax, enjoy. Fun at Work Day, Insane Answering Machine Day, Inane Answering Machine Day, Preschool Health and Fitness Day, School Day of Nonviolence and Peace. I expect that's because of Mahatma Gandhi. And Yodel for Your Neighbors Day. Yodel for your neighbors. And then I've got a really cool bean. Do we have time for me to talk about it? It's called a winged bean. It's a Prospocarpus tetragonolobus. And the variety that Baker's Creek have is the Urazun. It's from Urazun, Japan. But I found a really neat video. I'll put the link to it online. It was from, let's see, More Protein Than Soy, 5 Foods from one plant. That's the name of the video. It's 17 minutes long. Why was it erased? I found they do sell the seeds on Baker Creek. Didn't find it for kind of like a farmer. They just had them in small little packets of just a few. They may have them in larger volume. I don't know. But let me think cool about it. It's high in protein, and it's a legume, so it makes its own nitrogen out of the air. It's high in protein. Every part of it is high in protein. You can eat the leaf, the flower, the bean, the pod. The immature pod can eat that, or you can let the pods dry and eat the beans, or even the tubers that are edible. And they make a nice big tuber. Different varieties make different size tubers. It's kind of it grows in Japan, and it's a warm season plant. So you can grow it as a biennial, but these variety that Baker Creek has is one that matures fairly quickly. But it's probably you're just going to grow it like an annual. Like a tomato is a perennial also, but we grow them like an annual in the temperate climate. And it says in part of this winged bean, rich flavor and tropical beauty, the Sophocarpus tetragonolobus. The most likely origin of this herbaceous legume is the island of New Guinea. Winged beans are grown widely across South Asia and are becoming more popular as a garden crop in many parts of the world. They thrive in hot weather and prefer a humid environment. The tuberous root can be eaten cooked or raw. The leaves are enjoyed like spinach. The flowers are sweet and edible. And the bean is tasty as a green pod or as a shelled bean. The seeds can be challenging to get started, so we recommend soaking seeds for 24 to 48 hours or until they double in size before planting. Keep soil moist and in partial shade until sprouts appear. Then move plants into full sun. Germination can take up to 3 weeks. Trellis plants for best results. Probably be nice growing up your corn. And we'll talk a little bit more about it later. Okay, well, let's close with our song. Oh, our word for peace, we're going to take it from the Fon people of Benin in Africa. They're between the Kwim and the Kofu rivers in West Africa. They're on the Gulf of Guinea. They're on the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, well, let's do one of our practices as we close. God is in everything I see, because God is in my mind. God is in everything I see. Look inside. Because God is in my mind. See another thing or two. Come. And then look around a little bit. God is in everything I see, because God is in my mind. God is in everything I see, because God is in my mind. Okay, now you do that a few times today. Every time you think of it, remind yourself, God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. And our word for peace from the Fon people of Benin, Africa, Fida. Fida be with you. God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. Fida.